Hey, it's David from Ashton-Blakey, and today we're taking a closer look at an early 70s, very unique and rare watch, the Heuer Chronosplit, with its unmistakable dual LCD and LED displays. These were notoriously fragile watches that were very susceptible to getting damaged, especially when they would sit for long periods of time. The batteries would leak on them. So having this version here, which is mint condition and in fully working order, is a super rarity. I'm a huge fan of Heuer watches, or vintage Heuers, and I love the look of these old chrono splits, especially with the LED display, which I'll show you closer up as we get into the video. But yeah, they remind me of the inside cockpit of a Formula One race car, or sometimes a bit reminiscent of some of the James Bond gadgets with those cool bright red LEDs. I wanted to do a video on this watch for a couple reasons. Number one, there just isn't much out there on YouTube or anywhere else on the internet. And number two, we get a lot of questions about how they work. So we'll cover a little history on Heuer LED and LCD watches, and then take a closer look into this cool guy. For a little bit of history, Heuer introduced the Chronosplit chronograph in 1975, and this was a totally different design for Heuer, who weren't trying to make these quartz and LED watches look like the automatics, but they really gave them their own distinctive design. And they were touting the fact that these were ultra high-tech watches at the time, not meant to be cheaper alternatives to the automatics or manual winds. The first version of the Chronosplit, this one here, this is the Reference R100-703. This is the one that's got both the LCD and the LED display. The LED chronograph had a lot of issues, this part here. And Heuer ended up changing the design that used two LCDs instead of this cool red LED, which everybody loves, and I think that's what really, they lost a big part of the cool factor. They also had some gold color versions as well, but I think the stainless steel definitely looks the best by far. Heuer also manufactured chrono splits for Tiffany and Ferrari, this same model here. In the late 70s, these were really low production, about under 200. They reportedly also did a small run for the German army. So obviously these models are even more rare, and some of those can easily exceed 10,000 US. There's another rare model that came out in the 70s that was made for Ford racing. That one had an LCD panel that displayed the Ford logo. I haven't seen any of these for sale, and I'm sure those go for a pretty penny. Definitely a cool looking watch. Cool thing about the Chronosplits is these watches were actually worn and used by F1 car drivers at the time. It wasn't just because they made Ferrari or Ford versions, but these guys actually used the watches. And as the Chronosplit name implies, there are two completely independent electronic movements in this watch. The top one being the LCD, which covers the time, date, seconds of the day on this watch. And then on the bottom, which you can see here as I press this button, which shows that cool red LED display. That's what showcases the stopwatch elements and the lap times, or they call them split times. That doesn't stay on, just to stay at battery life. So let's go through here how this actually works. First, if you press the button on the left, it'll show you on the LCD display seconds of the day, time obviously, AM or PM, as well as the date. So that covers the button at the 9 o'clock mark, and that's all of the LCD displays. As well, you've got this button at the 3 o'clock here that, I don't know if you can see that on there, but it operates the light for the LCD, since it's pretty dimly lit. Now obviously the LED is the cool part of this watch. I mean, tell me that doesn't look super cool. Basically what you're looking at there is 27 minutes, 30 seconds, and 7 fractions of a second right now. The way this works, quite simply, is you press both buttons on the side, one at the 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock, to reset the stopwatch. And then every time you press the 1 o'clock button, the split button, typically you would press that on a lap time. So you could hold that down, log the time, and the timer is continuing. The bottom button, when you press that, stops it. So every time you press the 5 o'clock button, you're seeing the total time. To clear it, press both buttons at the same time, and you're back to 0. Top button starts the timer, and every time you press the split button, you're seeing the time as you pressed it. Right? So this would be if you are, timing laps. You'd press that button as soon as a lap is logged, so on and so forth. So, pretty easy. Again, both buttons puts it back to 0. 7. Thanks for watching the video. This cool Chronosplit is available at Ashton-Blakey, so click on the link below if you want to take a look at it and get more information. As with any rare vintage watch, you want to do your homework before you buy something, regardless whether you're buying something from us or online. Try and deal with well-known, reputable dealers, especially with these watches that are very finicky and very fragile. You want to make sure that you're getting what you pay for. Also, if you have one of these watches, consider storing it with the batteries out. If it's sitting for a long time, it's obviously susceptible to the battery leaking. I also want to give a big shout out to some of the great sites out there like LED Forever, VintageHeuer.com, and On the Dash, who all had great Heuer info. Thanks a lot.